What's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and this video is going to be maybe a little different. This is just going to be a yap video. I've got no real outline for this video, but I want to talk about the Dinar system, what was announced yesterday, Turbo Boost season, and all that. I made a video on it yesterday talking about just what it is, outlining like what's going to happen and all that, and people lost their minds about it. And to be fair, like I think it's justified. Maybe not my video, but more like just what's happening with the season, right? And some people lost their minds about it, which I think is sort of warranted based on what kind of WoW you play, what aspect of the game you play. I just want to yap about it today and give my thoughts about it, because yesterday's video was more of just a highlight, talking about what's going on and what's coming. Today's I'm going to give more of my general thoughts and go from there. I forgot to close these tabs. I was playing Magic. Yeah, if you're not playing Magic, play Jeskai. It's the best control deck, best deck in the format. I legit forgot. So listen. If you guys have been living under a rock, whatever, obviously Blizzard announced puzzling cartel chips, right? Which yesterday, which is going to be the Dinars. Now, I think the biggest problem with this announcement is not if Blizzard used the word Dinar in a official post somewhere, then I think this is like much more warranted talking about this currency. I think what a lot has happened is players and like the player base, myself included, I'm not exempt from this, have just been calling this system they announced Dinars. I don't think Blizzard ever used the word dinar when it comes to announcing these coins as currency. I think they've always used like cartel chips or whatever, and maybe they have. If I'm wrong, hey, okay, it is what it is. If they've used the word dinar, then the frustrations are more justified than before. And I'm guilty of this as well. I called it dinars for a long time. Dinar brings the preconceived notion of that we're going to have the ability to buy any item in the game and upgrade it to max level, whether it's, I think it was like rank 1 out of 14 or whatever it was in faded seasons of Shadowlands and Dragonflight, right? But this is not a dinar system. This is sort of a bad luck protection system. Now, don't hate me because I'm going to elaborate more upon this and give my thoughts on it. I'm not saying it's, good or bad or whatever, but just stay with me here. Bear with me. Don't get angry. I think that's the biggest problem is the players in the player base, myself included, were expecting more of a dinar system. I can buy any item at adventurer, whatever rank it is, 1 out of 12, and dump a million, doubloons or crest into it, and it's a big mythic item, and you're good to go. Whether it's, a Jas or Diamond, or Eye of Kazan, a Jug, House of Cards, whatever what have you, I can get it, and that can be it. I can bring that mythic level piece into M+, raiding, PvP, delves, whatever you're doing in the game, right? And then when this was announced, the crest cap being removed is great. Eye level being increased is cool. All this is good. I'm excited for basically all this stuff. And but the cartel chip announcement has been interesting. It's been very polarizing. Now, I talked about it a good bit, and they elaborated more on the dinar chip, the puzzling cartel chip dilemma later on yesterday evening. Now, they went more on to talk about here in Shadowlands Dragonflight S4. There's a very complicated system, a very compressed seasonal timetable that rotated through multiple raids, making it hard to acquire certain pieces of gear until they all became farmable at once. And they became easier then, but it was way later on. In the Faded season, nobody really cared a whole lot. Dinars were a primary means of acquiring a specific chase item that would otherwise be unobtainable for most players. Regardless of this, whether you just did that because you wanted it to be easier to attain, sort of like bad luck protection, or you just wanted it to be there in general because it's a fun season, who cares, right? Let's do that. War Within Season 2, though. This presents a very different situation, which I agree it does. It's not a faded season. It's earlier on in the season, not faded, all that. Puzzling cartel chips, once again, not dinars, were designed primarily as bad luck protection. So a different design, in a sense, fundamentally from where dinars were. Dinars were, I guess, BLP in a sense. We're going to refer to this as BLP for the remainder of the video. More so based around the raids rotating and also being a fun kind of season, right? But chips, allowing players who've been chasing specific raid items without success to have a guaranteed path to earn them. Now, I think having bad luck protection in the game is very good. This is something the game's needed for a very long time. I knew someone, Neri, who didn't get the Warlock Clash trinket through all of Aberys. That was like your Bish trinket, didn't get it at all. We saw 1 drop on Heroic, 1 on Mythic for all of our progression, all of our farm. That was it. BLP needs to be in the game for M+, raiding, and probably PvP. I have no idea how gearing works there alike. Side tangent here, you should have a way to upgrade items that you get from M+, like hero gear, to myth gear. You should have a way to take champion gear to hero gear and M+ as well. Talked about it for a long time. Maybe put some item in the Great Vault, let you take an item from M plus, like a signet, the Priory, or some niche trinket ring, maybe even just like a helm you got, right? From one track to the next, maybe costs, 6 doubloons in the Great Vault, same as a socket, maybe costs 12, I don't know, but we could elaborate upon that more as well. Regardless, though, puzzling cartel chips are not intended to be the same way that Dinars are. Now, once again, I'm not giving my opinion here. This is what they're saying, right? We need to be mindful of how we will transition into the next season, giving players who don't normally engage in high-end content access to 680 plus trinkets would essentially obsolete those slots for S3. I don't fully know what this means, because you can just... Trinkets are buffed and nerfed a bunch at the end of every season, going into new ones. You can just buff and nerf things and, tune them alike. I'm not going to be wearing... If I'm wearing a trinket from last season, regardless, whether I bought it or not, it just needs to be nerfed. That's how it is. We don't live in a world of Ashar's Want of Power anymore, right? But either way, there's that. This statement here is sort of what is making it even more of a polarizing kind of scenario, right? And this statement reminds me a lot of Blizzard from Shadowlands and before. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying in general, it feels like a different mindset we've had in Dragonflight and War Within. We understand that players who don't raid or who have no interest in mythic raiding are disappointed that they can't get myth versions of these desirable items. The puzzling cartel chip system will still allow someone who only does normal mode Liberation Undermine to earn, for example, House of Cards at 672 once it's fully upgraded. We hope this will be an exciting prospect for many players. I'm putting any bias aside that I have or anything, it won't be. Because, I mean, you can go farm M plus for signets or whatever, and there's always like that little, I want to do more. I want more, right? If you're a car person, you'll upgrade something. Oh, great, this is perfect. Then you find something else. You want to upgrade it again. Then you upgrade again. Then you want to buy a new car, and you want to, it's how it is, right? You keep chasing the carrot on a stick. They elaborate more. This event's part of an experiment, which I am 1000% for. I love seeing Blizz experiment more with new stuff in the game. BLP is certainly needed in this game, 1000%, and I hope they elaborate more upon it for Mythic Plus and probably PvP and maybe Delves alike as well, because Delve tables are crazy big. But the problem here is that once again, players have the preconceived notion of these coins being like Dinars, and for a very long time, whether it was content creator based or Wowhead based or Icy Veins based or any site that puts out content on this stuff, right? Calling them Dinars, they weren't intended to be Dinars. So it puts you in an odd scenario of what should Blizzard do, if anything at all, to counteract this. Now, personally, this is my own opinion. I'm okay with it being this way. But at the same time, there's more to that. I played a million years ago. I'm old, obviously. And don't hate me, right? I'm okay with it being this way in a sense because it's how it used to be. I had to go into PvP to get a helm with Flashpoint rolling havoc on it in BFA. I had to go do M plus at some point for something, right? For a good trinket. Solid and Ruby. I was in there farming it for years, right? But I think this is much more of a niche example and a more extreme example because pugging Theater of Pain 30 times to Ruby is not the same as killing Mythic Gallywix or Mugsy or One Arm Bandit or whatever, right? Buying a carry in Arenas 1800 is not like buying Gallywix or One Arm Bandit or Mugsy or anything, right? Those are way more difficult, I would say at least, comparatively. So I definitely side with the portion of the player base that wants to have access to these at some point. And I get it, right? It feels good. It feels like a sense of completion. I've worked hard, whether it's, maybe you didn't kill Mythic Gallywix or Mugsy or One Arm Bandit or whatever, but you still ground out the required cartel chips. You work towards getting X goal and you were able to obtain that piece. I think WoW's at its best, honestly, when it comes to gearing things, when there's things like Valor around or badges where you can say, okay, in X weeks, I know if I maximize my, cartel chip grinding quest lines, whatever, or back in the day, if I maximize my badges every week, in 4 weeks, I can buy X item. Maybe it's some massive sword if you're a warrior, maybe it's some trinket if you're a caster, and I know then I'll have my BIS item. It's that carrot on a stick that's been part of more recent WoW, but still giving you the option of eventually, hey, you can have this best in slot piece, right? And when we're getting to a point in the season where we're also introducing 6 to 8 eye levels more on every slot item, we're uncapping Crest, we're giving infinite Valor Stones account-wide essentially. At this point, you're going to have, I think, 9% damage increase in the raid to the Renown track, which I like the Renown track. It's pretty cool. And it's going to, I think, scale even more to 18%. At a certain point, it's like, it really doesn't matter. right? I mean, like, what's the problem with giving somebody who only raids heroic, or a guild that only does 4 out of 8 mythic, right? Doesn't go past that 3 out of 8, 4 out of 8, whatever, access to a Jasper Diamond, or a House of Cards, or a Mogsy, a Jug, or an Ayakazan, or whatever they want, a Sprocklemon or a Cloak, who cares? What's the problem with that? I don't really see much of an issue with that. However, I do understand Blizzard wanting to have more of a, like, putting in time for rating matters, and rating is prestigious. And I'll say that, like, rating needs a fundamental overhaul in the first place, in my opinion. Like, it needs some changes for sure to not keep losing players in the long run. Totally different video. We'll get to that in a few weeks, probably, when the patch is closer, or PTR does. But I digress. I think that's a way to... I think you should still give access to this gear to people that don't do the mythic end bosses. People that do M+. I have a lot of friends that just do M+. They don't raid. I mean, Tettles is a good example. He put a video out on it also. Disgusting boomkin, but putting that aside, he doesn't raid. When he raided, he was good. He's old like me, but he can do it. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to commit 6, 9, 12, 14 hours a week and a way higher amount week 1, 2, 3, 4 a patch and progression when it comes out to just be able to get gear from Mythic Plus. It's his main focus, right? So there's a part of me that says, you know what? You want to keep M+ prestigious or rating prestigious, it's okay. Separate certain things. But at the same time, I think the general direction of the game shifted more towards just a universal, you can do whatever you want and not have limited power as much throughout Dragonflight into Warthin. You've had unique items and raids that have been good in the past, some rare items people have wanted, but never a system to target gear like this that is limiting based on what you kill in the past. Listen, when it comes to PvP, the Glad mounts, Gladiator achievements, they're sick. I love them. I suck at it. I accept that fact. I'm never going to get them. Okay. And when it comes to M+ and title, I don't care enough to dedicate 30 hours every week out of my life to getting title for the entire patch. Do I want it? Sure. I don't care enough. Sucks. Not going to get it. So I get the mindset of rating being the same way from a lot of people, but honestly, man, it's just a game. We should all be able to have some fun, right? And even though, like, most people who can just kill Heroic Allywicks, Mugsy, whatever, all that stuff, I feel like about 8 or 9 times out of 10, if you're killing... It's hard to phrase. If you're in a spot where you've killed Heroic Allywicks, Heroic end bosses, whatever, you can get Jasper Diamond, Ayakazan, Jug, whatever you want, House of Cards. But you don't have the means, or... This is hard to put into words. If you don't have the means or care or whatever to kill the mythic bosses, it probably doesn't matter a crazy amount. If you're pushing high-end, like legit high-end M+, and you're trying to go for like title and world first stuff, or whatever, top tier keys, you're probably going to find a way, whether it's buying tokens and buying a carry if it matters enough to you, or have a friend that can get you in for a kill. But it shouldn't be that way, if that makes sense, right? It has been that way in the past when it comes to PvP and rating, M+ and rating, or rating and PvP, so on and so forth. But I feel like the game has shifted in the past couple expansions to a point where it hasn't been that way. And this seems like an older Blizzard statement or mantra of, hey, if you're not doing it, that's unfortunate. So I think that's where a lot of the frustrations come from when you're talking about the Dinars. But I think it also just all stems back to the fact that these aren't Dinars, they're puzzling cartel chips. And whether it's, you know, I call them Dinars, I mean, everybody called them Dinars, right? But I don't believe Blizzard ever did. So I think a lot of it is just an incorrect preconceived notion of what they would be, which is also on me. I thought it would be a Dinar too. I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but I think a lot of it's just that we expected this and got this. And in the end, honestly, I mean, it's just, hey, we could get this or nothing. You know, honestly, like 9 times out of 10, if you kill Gallywix once and want a Jasper Diamond, a Heroic one's gonna be just fine. We're farming the whole raid now, and honestly, a Heroic Jasper Diamond, I can buy Mythic, but Heroic would be just fine for me. Just being honest, it pretty much would. Same with Trinket's a bit more relevant, but you get what I'm saying, honestly, at this point. The eye level increase, the raid damage stacking increase is going to make the raid just a literal steamroll for most guilds that have been doing it, or even progging at this point. It's going to be a pure mechanics check. When it comes to M+, though, wanting things like Jasper Diamond or Jug or House of Cards, which this tier, you basically want House of Cards or Priory Trinket, right? They're pretty hard to come by. I get the frustrations. I understand. And when it comes to having my own alts, honestly, I'm right there with you. I want to have things on my alts. I want to have I have Kazan, Jasper Diamond, all that on my alts, right? I'm never going to bring Rich Piana, my Demon Hunter, that I tank keys on once a week, into Mythic Gallywix. He's not going to kill Mythic Vexy, right? And we're at this point in the season, whether it's 11.15 or a month after the patch just come out last week, I think we can sort of pull back on how like limited and restricted we're being when it comes to the cartel chip system. Now, shifting gears here, how do you address this if you're Blizzard? Number one, you can just say, hey, whatever, it is what it is, which they've done here. And honestly, if that's the mindset they want, then okay, it's their game. And once again, it stems back to, I think, being a decent bit of a incorrect preconceived notion of what cartel chips would be. I do think, though, I mean, they've also shifted gears here and said you'll get your first cartel, your first item, basically, week 1 and not week 3, which is a nice change here. But doesn't really change a whole lot of what the frustrations are with the system, right? Or I guess disappointments, I should say, right? Now, ways to correct this. I think, honestly, this is just my own thoughts. I could be wrong. I don't work with Blizzard here. I think one of the best ways to go about this, honestly, okay, making sure nothing weird happening on Twitter here. Just do this. What if we made it items from bosses you've already killed? Like, for example, I've killed Heroic Gallywix, put up a big 0 on it. Doesn't really matter to me. I died. You are defeated, cost 3 chips. You're going to get 3 chips week 1 when this comes out. And every other week's going to be 1 chip, 1 chip, 1 chip. You're getting a boost of 3 chips the day the patch comes out, or the day the event hits, whatever. Let's be honest, whatever. The patch is coming out in 2 weeks. But bosses you have not defeated cost 6 to 9. 6 for hero, 9 for myth. So that means basically, if you're clearing the raid, you're going to get a total of 9 chips, I believe. Yeah, you earn 9 chips max and you're done, right? So with this current system here, you can buy 3 mythic items. Or 3, whatever. Hero, myth, whatever you've killed, doesn't matter. 3 items total, right? But what if you just said, yo, you keep it the same way for bosses you've killed? Basically, bosses you've killed, an item costs 3 chips. So if I'm clearing the whole raid, I can buy 3 items total at myth or hero, whatever you killed it at, and be good to go. But if you haven't killed that boss, what if the item is still available at myth or hero? Somehow you got to figure out if it's hero or myth. Make it all myth. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Make them all myth items. But it costs 6. Or it cost some number where you can buy. Yeah, make it cost 6. So you can, it's double the actual like coins, right? But you can buy that myth Jasper Diamond, that myth I have Kazan, myth Jug, myth House of Cards, and you have 3 left to buy an item from a boss you already killed. So it still gives access to that, but you're also not going to be able to buy the item from a boss you haven't killed until 4 weeks after this event hits, which is going to be like, you'll be able to buy it, I think, like June 10th, something like that, give or take. You can tweak it, obviously, but that functions as more of a bad luck protection for people that have killed bosses a bunch, but haven't looted the item. For example, we've looted 1 House of Cards, all heroic, all mythic clears. We're farming it all. 1. Week 2 of the patch. Nothing else since then. You can buy your House of Cards. I can buy a House of Cards for 3. I can buy a diamond for 3 from Gallywix, mythic, and I can buy something else, Sprocketmonger Cloak for 3. There we go, because I cleared the raid. If you haven't cleared the raid, if you've killed LFR Vexy and that's it, you can go in and buy a mythic Jasper Diamond from Mythic Gallywix. But it takes 3 extra weeks for you to get that, and you're using 6 coins versus 3. So you have 3 left to buy an item from a boss you've already killed at whatever difficulty. That'd be fine. I think it's a good middle ground to this, whether Blizzard does it or not, or, you know, decides to change the way this is going. I think that'd be a good middle ground. But I think a lot of this stuff is just, myself included, the majority of the player base expected more Dinars to be like it to be a Dinar thing, where you buy an item at 1 out of 15 rank or whatever it is and spend 1 million crests on it, upgrade it, right? And we didn't get that. And am I disappointed? In a sense, from my alts, yeah. It is what it is. I think I'm a little emotionally blunted because I've played Warlock for years, and yeah. But I think that's most of the frustrations in where things have landed now. So I don't really know what Blizzard will do with this. They might just leave it alone, honestly. If they don't, this is going to be a large spike in sale runs. You're going to see a lot of mythic bosses being sold. Galley is like, maybe easy to sell already now, but it's definitely going to be an interesting response from the community. Especially players that want to push high end plus, but can't, you know, like don't want to spend, you know, a year of their life every 2 years, half their life basically being dedicated to raiding, buying certain runs, certain bosses, buying Mugsy, buying Gallywix. You know, those bosses are gonna be expensive because you can use your coins on them, right? So I don't know how this is all gonna end up, but I wanted to give my thoughts on it. I mean, like, because I feel like yesterday's video came off of more of a, oh yeah, this is great, and I think it's cool systematically. Everything else is great. Eye level's great. Crafting's cool. Delves are sick. Crest cap being removed. Valor Stones, very cool. I'm down for that. But I think a lot of this is just an incorrect preconceived notion, like even on my own self, as well as most everybody else. I hope that Blizzard does change this for like the larger player base. Personally, I don't care. I choose to waste my life raiding so I can get it all either way. I've played since TBC. I had to be a shadow cloth tailor to make Frozen Shadow Leaf. I had to get Boots of Blasting Drop to make my own boots. I had to do XYZ. I don't mind MMOs having certain things locked behind certain parts of the game you have to do to be able to get it or obtain it. But at the same time, I think systematically Blizz has moved away from that a good bit in a lot of areas, not all of them, in Dragonflight, in War Within. And this, to me personally, feels like an older kind of WoW mantra of, hey, if you're not doing it, it's okay, but you're not going to get it. Which part of me is okay with, because I played away for a long time. But at the same time, I think we've shifted away from that a decent bit. And that's where you have this weird swirling mess of like frustrations and dinars and coins, everything being made up into some huge, yeah, you know what I mean. So I think it's a mix of a lot of things. TLDR, I can buy what I want, but my alts can't, and that feels bad. And if that ult was my main, it would feel even worse. So I fully understand where you're coming from. I hope that Blizzard does make some changes to this. We'll see what happens. Honestly, I'm fine for just full Dinars. It doesn't matter. The season's over within reason. I mean, M+, if it's a Dinar system where anybody can buy any 3 items, upgrade fully, it really doesn't impact M+ anyway for somebody doing +2s versus +22s. You can buy it all the same. The raid's already being nuked into oblivion. There's a million bugs with the bosses and things are already dying. It doesn't matter. Right? Just give everybody what they want. I think it's okay. And then maybe for next season, you can iterate more upon the system and also give a better, hey, heads up, this is how it's going to be. You can deal with it next season. But I do like seeing Blizzard iterate upon things and take new chances. Take a chance on something. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. But taking chances is where you get new systems and new things in the game that are really good. M+ was a chance, was a risk. Delves were a risk. AP was a risk. Didn't work out for most of the player base, but hey, at the same time, without taking risk, you don't improve things. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes and improve upon things and say, hey, I was wrong, right? Taking chances, taking risks gets you a better version of the game. So, I think the big question is this going to change more? How do we react to this? How does Blizzard adapt to this? Or does it stay the same? And if it's the same, it is what it is. I sort of look at it at this point like you know what? It's better than nothing. But I'd love to have my alts have the option to buy a Mythic Jester Diamond, Mythic I have Kazan, Jug, whatever, week 12 of the season. Why not? Who cares? So those are my thoughts. Decent bit of a yap video. Sorry if it ran too long. But yeah. So I think it's a cool system. I think it is a little bit, maybe not lacking, but could be elaborated upon more. TLDR, just give everybody mythic stuff. It's fine. I think this is a great solution to it. Just do this for now. And next season you can highlight it early on and say whatever, but not against. So either way, thanks for watching. GG, GN, don't hate me. See you later. Peace.